I am blown away when I heard that Dave Smith admits that he believes in God and he even prays to God every single day. I couldn't believe this. We got to roll this clip and go through it. This is something else.
Find in your life, this is a quiz I give a lot of people, more people you know personally talking about God than you did, say, 10 years ago.
Yes. And I am that person. I mean, I was an atheist 10 years ago.
What happened?
I had my daughter. Yeah. That's, as I found God the day my wife delivered our first child, and which is a fairly common experience. I know other people who have had the same thing, were atheists until that moment. And
what changed in you?
So, all right. So it was basically, so I met my, well, she was over her due date. So then they scheduled to come in. By the way, I should add, just leading into the story. I had been like a militant atheist when I was younger. I had started to open up my mind a little bit to being like, I was seeing some of the holes in the atheist arguments, but I still was not like a believer in God. And so we were at Lenox Hill Hospital, and this was the first one. This is how it started. Was the anesthesiologist came in to give my wife an epidural, and at Lenox Hill, or at least this guy, they asked me to leave the room. They said they ask the fathers to leave the room when they do it, because they're putting a spinal thing in, and you have to be very, very precise. Yeah, right. Yeah. So like, and they don't want, I guess they don't want you there to react because then she might react, right. And so they don't want to. So I go out,
and she can't see what's happening.
Right. She can't see, but she can see you seeing, and so they want people with a straight poker face who have seen this a lot of times and are not watching it happen to their wife and baby. There's a reasonable ask. But so I go out, and I'm in the hallway in the maternity ward at Lenox Hill Hospital, and it just hit me. It was like for the first time, I guess I'd not really thought about this. I was just so excited to get my family started, but for the first time, it hit me that like something could go wrong, and that I could leave here alone. Like something could go wrong. That I could lose the baby. I could lose my wife, and it's totally out of my control. And like as this started hitting, I started like really getting emotional. And it's like I'm out there, and I'm crying in the hallway of this maternity ward. And immediately, I just started talking to God. And I just started not just talking to God, but like negotiating with God. And I was just like, like dear Lord, if you make sure that they're okay, I'm going to do I'm going to be the best husband and the best father, and I will do this, and like all the different things in your life.
You ever prayed before?
No, never once in my life. And it all, like all the things that you're supposed to be doing that you're not doing that well. Like I was like, okay, I'll clean this up. I'll call my mom more often. I'll do this thing. And so anyway, so I just started like praying to God, and not just praying, like negotiating. So anyway, everything was fine with that. But my wife, this was the first of many times. There were a bunch of complications in the pregnancy. Everyone came out okay, thank God. But so I ended up talking to God a lot that day, and then just like as the days went on,
it's so interesting. It's organic.
Well, that's right.
Time of not believing, and then
just start. And so this is almost like what intellectually, converted me later. Was I was like, hey, what the hell was that? I mean, I can't look back and just ignore that. And there was one, like again, I'm almost a little uncomfortable talking about these things because I like talking about things where I have like a real tight argument that I can prove is irrefutable.
It's a profound argument, actually.
But it was something where I was like, look, so in the moment when it was really all on the line and out of my control, I wasn't thinking maybe God exists. I knew for a 100% certainty, unlike nothing I've ever known in my life, that not only did I know that God existed, but I knew what he wanted from me. Like I knew what my negotiating power in this was, is that I could, what I'm saying? Like I could promise I'll be a good person. I'll do. So not only did I know God existed, I knew that God wanted me to be a good person. And there was, and look, this is something that people who have found God know, and people who don't believe in God maybe will not accept. But there is something to when you open yourself up like that to God, like you find out that he's real. And it's not like he speaks to you or he hallucinates. I don't like see a fiery bush and the words of God started talking, but like he fills you. Like when you open yourself like that to it, you get filled by it. And there's no more debate in your mind over whether that's a real phenomenon or not. You're like, and any more than like if I were to leave here and someone would be like, do you believe in Tucker Carlson? And like I'd be like, no, I know for certain. Like I know for a certainty that Tucker Carlson exists. I was just with it. It's like that. And so it was and it changed my life. And ever since I regularly pray to God. It's something I'm conscious of every single day.
No way.
Every day. Every day. And I don't even pray exactly. I don't ask for things ever. I ask for one thing ever from God, which is that my wife and my kids are healthy and safe. It's the only thing I ever pray for. I don't ask for anything. The only other thing I do is I express gratitude. God, like I just say thank you for everything I have. So that's the extent of it. But I think that I cannot overstate how much I think that's made me a better person.
Really?
Yeah, just it's very, very good for you to constantly remind yourself how lucky you are that you have all the things that you have. It's very easy to get is if you start taking the things you have for granted. Because once you when you think you could lose everything you already have and then you don't, that's when you really appreciate it. You really appreciate how lucky we all are.
Well, not to be like.
So here's my question, David. You agree God exists. You agree that God is giving you air to breathe, gave you your wife, gave you your child, gives you food, gives you a house. Does God also have a right to have an opinion on world matters? Does God also have a right to decide of what we're going to do? How should we live our lives? Because on this one, he's saying something a little bit different. And I just want to play it and then give my comment on it.
What just happened?
Take Mike Huckabee, for example, and by the way, you didn't mention Hegseth, but he's guilty of the same thing too. The religious fanaticism, the way they speak about this conflict. If anyone in a first world civilized society spoke about any other policy this way, we would all rightfully be appalled. I mean, Huckabee, and I understand it's not the most consequential position, but the fact that the symbol of making this guy the ambassador, that he says, essentially, there's no such thing as a Palestinian, there's no such thing as a settlement, there's no such thing as an occupation, because God gave all this land to Israel, and so these people there just have no rights, and that's that. Now, if anybody anybody in a sane, civilized world spoke this way about any group of people, we would immediately recognize you as a dangerous loon who should be nowhere near power. We simply do not make political calculations this way in any other area of life. I mean, even the pro-life movement has to make an actual argument over why abortion is murder or why abortion is wrong. They don't just get to say, God says so, it's in my holy book. And so, look, to Omar's point, I mean, the Donald Trump, wherever his rhetoric is.
Okay, here's the point, David. Here's the point. Think about it. You say you believe in God, you pray to God, it made you a better person, but how is it that you could say you believe in God, but when it comes to something so important, a covenant that God has made himself with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, said to you and your children, everybody believes in this covenant, by the way. The Christians believe in this covenant. The Muslims believe in this covenant. And then you say this is not true. You say God has no permission. This is not an argument. I think this is the best argument. The one that created this whole entire world doesn't have a say to who the world belongs to, doesn't have a say to where this piece of land goes to or where that piece of land goes to. It's kind of a little bit of an oxymoron, David. You're saying on one hand, God exists. On the other hand, you're telling God only where I want you to exist, you exist, but where I don't want you to exist, it doesn't work.